towards the light and get softer light on their face. That's called short lighting. Or they can look straight at the camera and get some light across their face. This video is brought to you by NEEWER. NEEWER sent me their Z2 Pro and Z3R flashes. I'm gonna walk you through how to use a flash to enhance your portraits so you can go from this to this to this professional looking studio portrait. I'm gonna cover the specs of the flashes, how to use them a little bit, where to set up your flashes for a professional look, and then also how to pose your model so you'll have studio portraits by the time you get done with this. Now what's really nice about these NEEWER flashes, I'll go into the specs later, so they're very affordable. You don't need a full power strobe that's super expensive to get pro results, and I'm gonna show you why. NEEWER also sent me this QZ trigger, and this is going to remotely trigger both flashes. So you might be wondering what makes the Z3R more expensive. Well, first of all, it's 100 watts versus 76 watts, which means you have more flash power. And another thing that it has that I like is the touchscreen. I would spend the extra dollars to get the upgraded features in this flash. It's slightly heavier, it's barely perceptible to me, and you get a little less battery life because it is more powerful. That having been said, the Z2 Pro is powerful enough at 76 watts. It doesn't have the touchscreen, but it's still a versatile and very capable flash. Both the Z2 Pro and Z3R are compatible with the Godox 2.4 gigahertz wireless system, and that means that they can be controlled using Godox transmitters such as the X3 and X Pro. Also, NEEWER's trigger with the latest firmware update is also able to control Godox flashes. For the full spec differences, I'll put them up on the screen here so you can see the differences and see which one is right for you. Both flashes have TTL, which is through the lens metering. It's good for on-the-run shooting if you're doing events and weddings. Manual, which I'll be using now for the studio shoot, and multi, which is like stroboscopic for action, sports, things like that. So let's go back to multi, and you can adjust your power with the touchscreen. The battery here is USB-C chargeable, so you can pull it out and charge it, which I recommend because it will draw on the battery if it's in there, but you can also charge it while you're using it. The less powerful Z2 Pro supports up to 100 consecutive full power flashes. It depends on the exact settings, but the more powerful Z3R gets about 70 to 100 consecutive full power flashes, and both of them have thermal performance protection to make sure they don't overheat. That's still a lot. You can do a shoot with that, and of course, if you need to charge it midway or if you want extra batteries, that's always an option. Again, because there's less wattage, the Z2 Pro has a recycle time of 1.5 seconds, and the Z3R has a recycle time of 1.7 seconds at full power. So it takes a little bit longer, barely perceptible. One of the best tips that I can give you, based on the most common mistake I've made, is that I rush a shoot and then things are just slightly off. So slow down. I know it can be nerve-wracking. You're trying to think about your lights and the model's poses, but just take a deep breath, sit for an extra second while you compose, look around all the edges of the frame, and just take your time to get your shots. Because when you rush, you might miss some little things in the frame that look strange. So just relax, have fun, and look at your shot closely before you press the shutter. You don't need a huge space to have a studio. I'm in my spare bedroom. I have this tiny backdrop right now and it's a little bit challenging to work with, but you don't need a huge expensive space. I have this one reflector that's not super expensive. I'm using one flash right now. And of course, like the modifier is kind of fancy, but you don't need a fancy one. There's budget light stands, budget modifiers, budget flashes like the one that I'm using today. So don't think you need the most expensive gear to get professional results. There are so many ways to set up lighting in a portrait shoot, from very complicated to very simple. I'm going to start you with very simple, and I'm going to build a few other options for you to show you how I can make an optimal lighting setup without a lot of money. So let's start with one light. I have my first flash in here, and it's attached to a flash modifier, which is a big softbox. And what the softbox does is it disperses the light so you get a softer light. And if I didn't have that modifying the light, it'd be a little bit harder. The highlights would be a little bit harsher. And so for this, I'm getting smoother transitions between the highlights and the shadows, and I like that look. Here, I'm putting it on a 45-degree angle to Kayla, so I'll be shooting straight on. Her light is coming in at a 45-degree angle. And we're about 6 feet off of the backdrop. Now, if we weren't far enough away from the backdrop, you'd get shadows on the backdrop and it wouldn't be as clean. So I like to get that distance. Also, it allows me to get some background blur so that any imperfections with the backdrop are kind of smoothed out. I like the 45-degree angle because your model can look towards the light and get softer light on their face. That's called short lighting, or they can look straight at the camera and get some light across their face, and it's gonna have more harsh shadows and things. That's called broad lighting. Now, Kayla has perfect skin. It actually makes me angry. I can do any lighting on her and she looks gorgeous. It's flawless. If you have somebody who has skin where you don't want to show wrinkles or pores or deep lines, you will want either direct lighting right at them or short lighting, and it fills in all of those imperfections. When you use broad lighting that's kind of crossing across the face, you're going to see the pores, the wrinkles, and the general shape of the face more, the topography of the faceland, if you will. So it's not right versus wrong, it's just the look that you want. Let me get a few pictures of Kayla and I'll show you the difference. So you'll see she's looking towards the light and you're filling in all of the features. Now Kayla, look directly at me, like your face straight on. And you can see the light is crossing across her face, so you're seeing more definition of her features, deeper shadows. It's hard to tell because like she has very gentle features and nice skin, but it shows up more extreme if somebody's face is less perfect. She's blessed. I don't know what to tell you. I'm kind of cheating with a cheap trick, and you're probably noticing that I have this reflector right here. It's a piece of foam board. It's a V-flat and it's specialized for photography, but I've gone to the hardware store and just gotten a piece of foam board insulation and used that too. And the trick is that it's now making me have 2 lights, because I don't just have my key light, my main light on Kayla. It's bouncing off of this and filling her on the side a little bit so that you're not getting a harsh shadow on one side of her. This could be a wall, it could be a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. Get creative if you don't have the budget, or just go buy a V-flat. The choice is yours. I'm gonna add another light because NEEWER sent me this as well. It's the Z2 Pro, and this is the 75-watt flash, and I'm using the lower powered flash on the background because this 100-watt flash is going through a modifier, and so I'm gonna need a little more power to overcome that modifier. I'm gonna put the second flash to light the backdrop, and I want it a little bit away from the backdrop so that we don't get like a harsh circle and line. And I also don't want it between Kayla and the backdrop because I'm afraid I'll get some glow from the light coming back up behind her. I'm actually going to place it behind my V-flat a little bit. Welcome to my little creepy corner behind my V-flat. So I have this here so the light doesn't spill onto Kayla and give her some rim lighting behind her. And it's also about 4 feet from my backdrop, which is here. You can't see it off the frame. And it's going to be pointed at the middle of the backdrop and get kind of like an even spill on the backdrop. You could also put a modifier on the front if you wanted to direct the light more, but I'm letting it be free. Let's see how it looks. You don't have to have light modifiers and things. You can also use the flash. It's just called on-camera flash. It's directly in the hot shoe. I do have it in manual mode. You could be in TTL mode, but I wanted to dial it in exactly the way I want it. One thing you're going to notice when I have this on-camera flash and it's pointed right at her, you get a harsher look with more shadows. Now, sometimes you get that like on-camera flash look and you don't like it, but I happen to think stylistically it can be very cool and I like it in this situation. So I'll show you a few examples of it pointed right at her. You also can move your flash and you can bounce it off the ceiling, or you can turn it sideways, you can bounce it off of a wall. And so you have some versatility. Your light source doesn't have to exactly be your flash. It can be you bouncing it off of a white ceiling or wall and using that as well. So get creative, because when you have a flash, you have a lot of versatility. All right, so let's get it directly on camera like this. And I'm gonna turn it down so you can go super bright. And look, you can see the results there. You're getting really bright specular highlights and deep shadows, but if I turn my flash power down, then you just get a little bit of a fill. I'll change my aperture so I have more ambient light. And now you're getting just a little bit of fill flash, and it's less harsh. And I can even turn it down more. And remember, the bigger, when the fraction is 1/64th, for example, it's gonna be less light than 1/1, which would be full flash. Now I'll bounce the light off of the ceiling and you can see the difference. And for that, because I'm bouncing it, I'm gonna use more light and I'm gonna go, like maybe go to a half. Let's try a half and see how that goes. And you can see when I'm bouncing it off of the ceiling, now I have a bigger light source because it's reflecting off of the ceiling and the light is softer. It's also a lot flatter. Neewer also sent me this light modifier set that goes with their flash. It's really cool. So it's magnetic. You can take off this part. There's a little snoot that slips on right here. There are some gels and things. So if you get the modifier set, it makes your flash even more versatile. And this is what the photos look like with no flash. Now, of course, I could get more creative with my natural light, but I'm just purely showing, for example, what this same exact environment looks like with flash versus no flash, on-camera flash, and all of the variations. Now we have our basic lighting setup with just 2 affordable flashes, a reflector here, and a backdrop. And you can see you have a background light, you have the key light, which is your main light, and then you have some bounced light. It's just that simple. You can move them around wherever you want, experiment, see what looks good to you, but it's pretty simple to do. And then you can also play with your flash power. Maybe you want a little bit of light on the background or no light on the background, or maybe you want it really blasted out and bright. You can see what is your style. It's really a matter of preference. So play around and have fun. Both models of flash also have a modeling lamp that can be used as continuous fill lights. They offer 10 levels of brightness adjustments, making them useful in a variety of scenarios. Now I want to talk a little bit about your camera settings, just the basics to get you started. Now your shutter speed you don't really have to worry about because it's about your camera sync speed, so it's going to be 1/200th of a second or 1/250th of a second, and you don't have to worry about that. I put it on ISO 100 for a portrait shoot in the studio because I don't want noise. The higher the ISO, the higher the noise. And then my aperture I can play around with a little bit. So if you're wide open at like f2.8, you might get a really bright picture. You're also going to get a narrower depth of field. I'm shooting at about f8. I like the deeper depth of field stylistically, and then I can use my aperture to control the light. I can also use my ISO to control the light if that's something I want to do. Let's say that there's a group photo and I need a deeper depth of field, but I need more light. That's an instance where I might dial up my ISO to get more light. Or, of course, you can put up the power of your flash, or you could control the distance of your subject to the flash. So that's a lot of variables to throw at you at once, but that's just the basic. One camera setting that might run you into a problem is your shutter type. So if you have your electronic shutter on, your flash might not fire. So put your mechanical shutter on and make sure that's set up so that your flash actually pops. And that's as far as I'm gonna go into camera settings for now, because this is really more about the whole flash thing. Now I want to talk about posing your model and your light a little bit. So Kayla, I have her right next to the main light, and when you direct your model, you can have them look towards the light like this, or directly at you, or even away. So you want to have your model between your main light and your reflector if you have one, and then about 6 feet off of the backdrop, and you can play with the posing from there. I have a really tiny backdrop, so I have to back up and then zoom in to make it fill the frame. If you have a larger backdrop, that won't be a problem, but remember to keep your eye on that backdrop so that you don't have a wonky background in your shoot. Another thing to consider with posing is the mood that you want. So if you have a beautiful dress and a beautiful background and then like your model is in a mugshot like this, it's gonna ruin everything. You can have the best hair and makeup, the best wardrobe, the best lighting, and if your model looks terrified and uncomfortable, your photo is gonna register as weird because as humans, we pick up on human emotion really finely, and so those expressions are important. So again, take your time to get the right expressions from your model, and if you're relaxed, your model is relaxed. You can put on some music to get everybody loosened up. You can give them a snack. That's kind of my trick. We had some crackers, some cheese, we have some seltzer. And she's really good at it. That's why I use her as a model. She's very aware of her face. If you don't have an experienced model, it's a little more difficult. So just kind of coach them through it. Be patient. There are some tricks. A little bit of tension in the eyes makes people look intense. Help them find their angles so that you know which light looks good on them. And again, I always say, just play, have fun, and experiment, and you'll get better photos.